Hello, and we are live. Welcome, Kimberly Maska. Thank you for joining me here today.
Hello, thank you for having me. Excited.
My name is Nicola Henderson. I'm a spiritual coach and a cosmic mentor, and this is my gratitude series. And I'm delighted to have Kimberly with us here today. I'm going to speak a little bit about Kimberly and why I love her so much, ask her some really wonderful questions that I'm sure we're all dying to know the answers to. If there's any questions that come through, if there's time at the end, we will be able to ask a couple questions as well, and then go into closing. So Kimberly is a Spiritual Biz CEO, an author, several books, and a 3D to 5D business coach. Taurus sun. Now this is a little, we're not totally sure about this. You thought you were a triple Taurus, but according to my calculations, we've come back as an Aries moon and a Taurus rising. And knowing you, Kimberly, that feels very true because you are a pioneer, you are a trailblazer, and those are Aries characteristics. So you just go for it. You don't, yeah, I'll take it. And Kimberly is a 2-4 sacral manifesting generator for those human design geeks out there. My intention for this series is really just to inject a little bit of a pause and a little bit of love into the world, and to take a moment to really thank and honor the teachers that have helped me over the last year. And I think that this is happening, you know, in my own little world, and I hope we can all learn something through these conversations in this series. But I think it's a wonderful opportunity for us all to pause and take a moment and be grateful for everything that we have experienced and learned in this lifetime through all of our teachers, good and bad, helpful and maybe apparently not helpful, but everything is a teacher and everything helps us. And being grateful is a bridge. Being compassionate is a bridge from moving from one lower state of consciousness and vibration into one that is of the fifth dimensional frequency, and one of love and joy and appreciation and compassion. So Kimberly is a spiritual entrepreneur, a publisher of Spiritual Biz Magazine, podcaster, and founder of Spiritual Biz Bootcamp, and a couple other, the mastery class and the coaching program that I took. With 20 years in corporate building big business, then leaving with the goal of discovering her soul's calling, Kimberly made it her mission to help 5,000 spiritual entrepreneurs create 5,000 businesses in the next 5 years. Kimberly is passionate about making money while you meditate. Don't we all want to do that? With a heavy focus on helping people rewire their money beliefs. If you need an example of how not to balk at saying hard things publicly, watch Kimberly. Money is a sensitive subject for many, and it's helpful to have someone like Kimberly blazing the path, showing us and helping us understand that it's important for light leaders to operate in full integrity, and that means pricing your offers in alignment with what feels right in your heart. I was perusing your website, which is beautiful, and looking at all your lovely photos, and I just had to laugh at the one of you and Bogart, because your smile in that one is like my ultimate favorite photo. I just love it so much. That's her little pug. I am also a pug mom, for those who don't know. So anyone else have pugs? There are babies. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They're not even dogs. You can't even call them a dog. They're just not.
No, Benny's sniffing around here somewhere, sleeping, maybe, I don't know. But was Bogan under your feet?
He's right here.
Yeah.
He's like, I know you're talking about me.
Yeah, Benny's just walked in the room. There we go. So I discovered Kimberly late last year and signed up for her Spiritual Biz coaching program. I knew that I needed a change from my corporate career, and committing to Kimberly's program gave me the confidence and the tools I needed to start my own coaching business online. It was a ground up program, practical mindset work, practical work, spiritual mindset work, weekly group calls, and full support throughout. The group calls were really great to touch in so regularly and be able to ask questions, and everything you could need is in that program. I mean, you give us absolutely everything. And then it's really just up to us to make it happen, right?
That's
It's always up to us. Yeah.
Which is the hard part. You're like, wait, but it's up to me.
Yeah.
But that's a good part because it's up to you.
Exactly. I love it. Through completing this program with Kimberly, I gained massive amounts of experience, knowledge, my first coaching clients through the Facebook group Spiritual Biz Success, and a spiritual coaching certification. Kimberly, you've been there for me throughout, and you've been a rock in my growth and development this past year. I truly appreciate you for your time and your generosity and the opportunities that you've afforded me. I've met some soul tribe, without a doubt, that I never would have met if it weren't for my time with you. You really care, and you hold firm the potential that people innately carry within them. So thank you for everything that you do.
Yeah, I tell everybody, whether you're kicking or screaming or not, I'm holding you in your highest light.
That's it. That's it. And it certainly feels like that sometimes. Yeah. So let's talk about puzzle pieces of life. I'd love to hear your personal reflection on the most impactful pieces of your puzzle from birth to now that have come together to make you the woman that you are today, doing what you're doing.
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. It's funny. The first thing that came to mind is a childhood story that, so I grew up, so I'm half Mexican. So I grew up, my culture was very Mexican, which means we did not talk about entrepreneurship. We didn't talk about your own business. You just got a job. I'm the only one in my family that went to a 4-year college because my mom decided that was it. You're going to university. Like, she just had this plan. And, but it being very young, I think it was like the 5th grade or something like that. A teacher said to me, she said, "You're a very good teacher." I must have been helping some kids in class or something. She's like, "You're a very good teacher. You should think about being a teacher." And I looked at her and I said, "Teachers don't make enough money." Now, how I would have known that at that age, like, my mom looked at me like, "Who is this child? And where did that come from?" Like, it just was one of those things. And so it's like, I've always known that, like, creating value and creating something big was always my vision. And even at some point, I remember as a kid, my mom used to be like, "You can be whatever you want. You can be the first female president." And I'm like, "No," I just want to own my own company. And that was just, I don't know where that came from. Like, no one in my family, I didn't have any mentors or anyone to look up to. My parents were lovely people, but they were not people that I would be like, I'm going to follow in their footsteps. And so somehow it's all come together, and it's just been so clear for me. And really the universe has opened up. Like, I can tell I've been in step with divine order because my life has really just unfolded beautifully. And then I can tell when I get out of step with divine order because everything slows down and I'm like, "Oh, what am I supposed to be learning here?" But overall, my life is just really unfolded in this way where you can just tell I'm in flow with what I'm supposed to be doing. So that's been really beautiful to know. And I've had, like, you know, my soul purpose done and all this stuff. And they're like, "Yep, this is exactly what you're supposed to be doing." In fact, your dear friend Suzanne, who was on here, not just, I think, like last week, we were chatting and she was looking at it and she was like, "Oh yeah, you're right there," especially with the entrepreneurship part. She goes, "You can see the success in my chart, not having to do with my corporate background, which I was successful there too." She's like, "But the entrepreneurship is what I'm supposed to do." So I really am doing what I'm supposed to do, and it feels amazing.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Right? That's my thing. I want everyone to experience this feeling of prosperity, which is more, it's not just money. It's in alignment. It's in flow with divine order and divine law, and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and you're serving, and it just feels so good. Like, everyone should be feeling this. No one should be like, "I gotta go to work today." It's like, no, you should wake up and be like, "This is amazing." And even though it's scary, because it is, because you're in charge of your own income. So some days you're like, "Whoa, what did I pick?" But overall, you're like, wow, this is really amazing. So I want everyone to experience that because it's incredible.
Yes. And it's really, there's so much that is up for review right now in this world. And one of the biggest pieces that you sort of touched on here is the fact that everybody can be doing something that they love. We're all designed specially and uniquely to have our own unique gifts that we can offer the world. And there is going to be someone that loves to do something that someone else doesn't like to do. And so go and do that thing. And that other person go and do the thing that they love. Imagine a world and a community like that, where we all get to feel this way.
What's really cool, I'm going to share something fun, if that's all right, that I just got this download. So one of my best friends, he was a client initially, and that was part of how it was all supposed to happen. She was part of my team for a while, and she gets these ideas, and she'll get a piece of a download, and then I actually get the second half of the download a lot. Like, we're like, it's like she'll get a piece, and she's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this, and then eventually the whole thing pops in. And so she had created this thing called the Sanctuary, and I actually don't have all the detail. I know it was just something she was called to do. She's one of the few people on this planet that I know does exactly what Source tells her to do, even though it might sound absolutely insane. She just follows what she's supposed to do. It always works beautifully. So she did that, and she created this thing called the Sanctuary, and it was kind of a synergistic kind of thing. People came together. I honestly couldn't even tell you if there was an energy exchange of money there or not. I have no idea how it worked out. But she ended up like basically incubating these people. And one of those people that was in that group is actually now coaching one of my programs, who I knew before already, but they were like incubating in this group. And so the download I got on Tuesday, and when I shared it with my best friend, she was like, oh my God, this is it, is that because not everybody, you don't really know where you need to go. And so I have this new program called Purpose to Prosperity that people will come through thinking like, I want to be a spiritual coach or spiritual leader, but not everyone's meant to be that frontline leader. That's not where we're supposed to be always. And so what came together was that as people come through my like core basic program, if they're not meant to be a coach, if they are, that's where they go with me to build the business. But if not, we'll put them back into the Sanctuary. And then we're basically building like an employment agency, essentially, for spiritual people so that they can all find their unique genius. And then as my clients who are the front leaders and the spiritual leaders create their businesses, they can come back to this pool of spiritual people who now know themselves, who have discovered their purpose via Gene Keys and human design and everything, knowing who they are and what they're supposed to be doing. And then we can tap into that group. So that group can be doing their genius in the spiritual world, working with conscious people and helping create this major movement for shifting consciousness. And so that just came in on Tuesday, and we were like so excited. So that we can all be in our genius, and everyone can be happy and experience this. You don't have to be the front person doing Facebook Lives and interviews like this to get clients. You can be the person in the back or the supporting coach, or as you expand your business, eventually you're going to need a coach and an assistant and the whole 9 yards. And so it's not easy to hire those people when they're asleep. You have to find the awake people who get what we're doing. So we're going to be building that community, which is really cool.
Fun. What a great idea.
Yeah.
How fabulous.
Yeah. We're
How
tickled.
Fabulous. It just sounds so aligned and inclusive and accepting and encouraging of everything and everyone. Like there's nothing, it's just you be yourself. What do you love?
Yeah.
Who are you? And let's all find our place together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because we all have our genius. What is it? So let's do that instead of, society has conditioned us to think we're supposed to do certain things and we have to have this job and do this and make this money. And that's all nonsense. It's like, what lights you up? Because when it lights you up, the prosperity will just show up for you. So you don't have to worry about that when you're in alignment. But we need to kind of remove some of that conditioning, and it's scary. It can be scary, but it's fun.
Oh man. It can be scary, but we didn't come here for an easy time at this time, did we?
No, that's for sure.
Let's go. Like, that's what you're finding with all like the triggers and all of the things coming through. It's just like we're just there's a lot, we're all being given a lot of experience in sort of just rolling with the punches as they come through, and it's awesome. And then you just get really good at it, and then you
Yeah.
stop reacting the same way, and it's just like, oh, okay, well, all I have to do is stay in my highest light and work on my shadow, work on my crap, and keep focused on where we're going.
Yeah.
Which is a much more loving space.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned something earlier around, when you're in this flow and there's this certain like energetic feel to this and this pace of that, perhaps. And that's an interesting concept around how we feel time on Earth as we ascend our frequency, if you will. And then also when you're not in alignment, how things kind of slow down. That's interesting. There's a lot of things to be aware of through that, I think. Because there's time for rest. You're a manifesting generator, so you don't rest all that much compared to me. But there is time for rest. But there's also time when we're just going like things are not moving. And is it time for me to just take the sacred pause, or is there something that I'm not noticing in this moment? What comes up for you around all of that?
Funny, this is actually the third time I've had this conversation today. So this is really
Really?
Yeah. This was the conversation in my coaching group. This was a conversation in my 21-day challenge group, and now it's here. So I find this really interesting. So apparently it's a big topic. And so here's what I've discovered for myself, and that I see happen pretty consistently with my clients, is that I'm going to use the example of creating a business, because that's what I talk about all the time, is you're stepping out as a coach, creating your business, or whatever you decided that you're going to do. And what happens is we get really caught in the 3D of the doing. And so we're like, I have to do this, I have to do that, especially with a business, because there is some 3D stuff that has to happen for everything else to come together. And then what happens is we start pushing into the 3D because we're supposed to do these things. But then no matter how hard we push into 3D, everything like just stops. And so when we're still asleep and we can just do the 3D stuff, which is like work harder, do more, and we just plow through it. But when we're awake and we get the balance of the 5D and the 3D, it's very painful to go through that 3D experience. That doesn't feel good for us at all. And so what we have to do is just take a break. And so I've done that. I'll do that. I try to do that once a quarter, where I just take a week and I just back off, and I do either just create or I do nothing. And if something's really stuck, I'll just take some time and do nothing. And I mean nothing by like no work stuff, no like work creative, unless I get the ping, because I kind of operate from that. Here's the download, go do it. But there was a time, and actually not that long ago, I'll still get stuck in the doing. And so, especially as a Taurus, because I'm like, where is it? I need to see it in the 3D. And so, but what I'll do is I'll just take a break and do something I love. I love to read. So I'll like, the last time I did it, I read Crime and Punishment again. So like, I mean, that's like a book. You're not going to be thinking about anything else other than what you're reading when you're reading that book. And I would just sit out on the deck, read my book, go for a hike, like take the dog out, like just whatever felt right. I love to cook. So I'd cook like a fancy dinner and just be. And in that being, it took me like a week. And then I got this huge, like, poof, here's what you need to do. And it's so clear when you finally get the message, because you've stopped getting so stuck in the 3D. You've allowed the 5D flow to come in, and then you get the inspiration. It's like, there it is. I'm like, okay, great. And then I go do. But it's a balance. But we really do have to take, even if it's just a day, take that pause, go do something. I love to antique too. So I'd go to for me, I'd go to an antique store. Like, what's going to make me just have fun and not be thinking about what I've been worrying about or pushing through, and then allow the inspiration to flow in. Because if we don't allow the inspiration to flow in, we're just gonna be banging our heads up against the wall, and that's no fun.
Yeah. That you put that really beautifully. Third time today. I'm not surprised. You're working the marbles out, right?
Yeah.
I was not planning that question, so that's really amazing. So yeah, I think, allowing is really, really important. Not pushing through. If you notice that you're really sort of pushing and it's feeling uncomfortable, then that's a perfect time just to take that pause. And of course, when we make space for things, we make space for more. Like when we clear space, there's space for things to come in.
Yeah.
In all ways. Even with tithing, right? Like when we give money away, we make space for more money to be received.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's amazing what happens when you make space, whatever it is. I mean, I remember having a client one time. She kept like trying to get her in the effort to get an enrollment for her program. She was really hanging on to these people that she kept following up with. I'm like, you really need to let those people go, bless them, set them free, and then focus on the new clients coming in instead of following up with these people that really weren't going to do anything. So yeah, that way. And then of course with tithing, like you said, when you release the money out, it's about a state of consciousness, right? So I had this other download the other day that the whole idea of tithing, yes, we give the energy of money out and it's great and we help people and everything, but it's really to put us in a state of consciousness about prosperity, that of course it's coming back in. So we're like re-release because of course, so like got this client to release the people she kept following up with because of course the new ones would come in. Like it has to. It's actually like divine law. Like when you let go of something, the rest of it comes in. That energy keeps flowing. So with the tithing, that's hugely important.
Yeah. Beautiful. Okay. We've covered off a few of my other questions, so let me just have a little look here. All right, let's keep going on the money topic. Money is a hot topic, always has been. Let's see if it continues to be. A large, everything's changing, right? Our perception of everything. A large part of your teaching and contributions to this world are around helping people rewire toxic money beliefs. And sometimes this can feel triggering, which is a service to humanity, to be able to watch someone and have someone around that's not afraid to trigger others. And I say that because you openly share that you're like, this is going to trigger some people, but it needs to be said. And you just go ahead and say it. And there's a lot of people like myself who really, we sort of go to all lengths not to trigger people, but I'm starting to learn that, somebody's going to trigger them. So why not be me, I suppose? It's got to come out somewhere.
Yes.
Right. So, yes. So how do you see money and our relationship with it changing as we shift ages and traverse the Great Awakening?
Yeah. So here's the thing. It shouldn't shift too much if we're seeing it as what it truly is, which is divine substance. Because money is just a symbol. It's just a thing, right? We see it as this paper that's in our wallet or numbers in the bank. It's like, it actually, when you think about it, it actually really doesn't even exist. They print this thing called money. There's nothing backing it anymore. So they just print it willy-nilly. It's like there's, even when you use a debit card or a credit card, there's no money. It's just numbers flying through the ether. And if you know anything about the banking system, the minute you deposit some money in a bank, they like play this little game and make it worth 10 times more and put it out as a loan. It doesn't actually even exist. So we have to understand that first and understand that it's energy, that it's divine substance. And if we can truly hold our connection with source in knowing that we are always taken care of, that divine substance is part of, it's who we are. It doesn't come to us, it comes from us. So everything is based off of our prosperity consciousness. So if we are conscious, which actually ties into like Christ consciousness, right? This is the whole thing. It's like consciousness, it's Christ consciousness, prosperity consciousness. If you read the New Testament, and when I grew up Catholic, I was like the same thing with most people with the whole religion thing. But now that I study so much prosperity, you go back and read the New Testament, the entire New Testament is about prosperity. Like, it's amazing how much is in there, how much information. And so that's where I believe like this whole idea of Christ consciousness ties in, is because it's the knowing that divine substance is flowing through us and that money comes from us, not to us. And so if we can hold that, it doesn't matter what the symbol of money is. It doesn't matter if it's, I don't know, seashells or gold or actual money or Bitcoin. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. If we can hold this prosperity consciousness, this connection with source, and know that divine law and divine order means that if you're holding that consciousness, that the abundance will flow to you, that you'll never be in lack. Now, I'm not talking about having 6 Ferraris in a garage. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about that you're not in lack, that the idea of prosperity is that it's ease of flow of mind, body, spirits. Like, your relationships are easy. The money flow is easy. You love what you do. It's like you're in good physical health. You don't create any ailments. Like, it's just in flow. And that's what prosperity is. And that comes from our prosperity consciousness. because we have to know that and believe that so that it manifests, right? This is how we always say we create our reality. Yes, we create our reality not by like trying really hard to manifest things. We create our reality by our consciousness level. And so we can hold that and know that it doesn't actually matter what happens to the monetary system, which is why people get really upset with me when I'm talking about money. And they're like, money is evil, money is man-made, it's a blah, blah, blah. I'm like, because you're not looking at what money actually is. You're looking at the actual physical thing. You're looking at the energy that person put into it, that as spiritual leaders, we get to put whatever energy we want into money. We should imbue it with love, the love of source, God, infinite intelligence, because that's what it is divine substance. So it actually, if we can hold this prosperity consciousness, it doesn't matter what happens to actual money. It's our consciousness that will bring in what we need, and then we'll always be taken care of. So it's a kind of a, I don't know, and that's a tough one. You can hear me say it and you can go, yes, I understand. But there's the moment when your body understands and you're like, oh, and then it all just happens.
Yes. It is a tough one. And though, I know I'm not alone in saying that I personally have had a really, I've had a journey of working on my own money story, and it's still going, right? It's still going. Even hearing you say all of that, I'm like, I get it more than I did the last time I heard you say it, or similar to that. But through, being in your programs, listening to your podcast and everything, but there's still, as you say that, I still feel lack in my body, and I'm going, isn't that interesting? Yeah. What do I need to do next to, I think what you just welcome it and then start to, like, what's your suggestion around that?
It goes back, for me personally, it just goes back to trust. Like, what is trust and faith in God? Source, infinite intelligence. I know God word sometimes freaks people out, but whatever that word is you're using for the all, whatever that word is, like it comes back to that faith, that knowing that we're taken care of. And like I said, I get it. I mean, how, like, you would hear it. So Bridget, who I was talking about earlier, I remember at one point in time, she was like, it's not about the money. And I'm like, of course it's not about the money. It's like, it's about serving people and helping them, blah, blah, blah. But I heard her and I intellectually knew what she was talking about, but I didn't in my body know what she was talking about. My consciousness wasn't raised enough or open enough to really understand. And then little by little, something would happen. I'd go, oh, that's this. And oh, that's that. And oh, like, I mean, and it's a constant thing. And because this is what I teach, I'm always getting stuff about money. And I'm also always having my own lessons because I have to be able to practice what I preach and hold that. So all sorts of crazy stuff happens with me, but it's really interesting to watch myself in those moments, because I'm very aware now. I'm like, oh, okay, so what's going on? And I can see it from a different level now, where before I'd be like, oh my God, and I'd be freaked out. But now I can step back and be like, all right, what's going on? What did I do? What have I been thinking? Where's my consciousness? Why did that show up? Like, I'm able to do that and then find the I don't know, the pebble in my shoe that's creating that. And so, but there's this moment, it's just, like I said, I can teach it and I can say it and people can hear it. And then suddenly there will be a moment where you'll get it. And then you'll get it some more. I mean, it was actually just a few weeks ago when I talk about tithing and everything all the time and all this stuff. And then it was literally just a few weeks ago, I was getting in the car, I don't know where I was going, and I was like, oh my God, tithing is nothing to do with giving the money away for, say, to give it away. I'm like, it's about your consciousness. Like, all of a sudden, I'm like, and that shit probably seems like so easy to somebody else. But for me, it was like realizing that it's our consciousness, that prosperity or that tithing is to put us in that prosperity consciousness, that we can give it away. So yes, we're giving it away. Yes, we're helping people, and that's great. But it's so much more than that. It's just to put you in that state of connection with source and that trusting and knowing that when you give it away, that it'll come back, and not to worry about that. And that's where we need to get. But it takes, there's not a trick to it. I wish there was, because I've been studying this stuff for years and I still get these like, that's it. But it's just, It is what it is. And then you can see, one thing I say is that I can see in myself my level of consciousness expanding that allows me to achieve the next level. So I always say, who do you have to become to either have the spiritual coaching business you want, create the income you want, whatever it is? Who do you have to become? Because our beliefs and our consciousness around money are holding us up. I say money is our greatest spiritual test. It drives people crazy. They can't stand that. What do you mean? That's our greatest? It is, because money ties us to the 3D. We see the thing. We look at our bank account and we're like, and we think it's real, and it's not. None of this is real, right? We get to create what we want. And so the money ties us so much to the 3D. Even when the spiritual people, I love quotes, I don't know if you can see me there with the camera, my spiritual people start to talk about the evils of money. I'm like, all they're doing is tying themselves to the 3D. That's all they're doing, is they're missing the whole point of what money actually is, that it's divine substance, and that it's about our consciousness, our connection with God. And so when you can begin to feel that, it's that, again, that's the greatest test. Like, can we look at a bank account and be like, that's really interesting. Wow, look at that. Where's my consciousness right now? How do I up-level my consciousness so my bank account ups? Like, that's all it is. But it's just, we're still terrified when it happens, right? You still look, you're like, I bounce a check. You know what I mean? You still get that like tightening in your heart of it. So it's just about like, who do we have to become? And I think our money challenges, especially as spiritual people, they're there to help us connect more with source, because until we do, we're so stuck in the 3D around it. And we have to get to that prosperity consciousness, that understanding. If not, when we're in the 3D world, we just work harder, make it happen. And we know that that's not right. Now that we're awake and we know what it feels like to feel that we're connected with source, we know that's not right. So this is our greatest challenge, is to overcome the 3D-ness of money, because that's not what it is.
Wow, that's huge. I'm not sure if you've ever said it that way before, but
I don't think I have.
landed very differently. Yeah. Like, I just see this thread, and it's like that thread can be like gooey and black, or it can be golden, which is the 5D to 3D, and this thread being money.
Yeah.
Wow. That's very good. That's very good. I really, really like that. That helps me a lot. And the faith piece, just bringing the faith back in, is really helpful as well. Yeah. And that really does soften the body. It's like we can just let go and trust and have faith that everything's going to work out. Yeah. And that's enough. That's enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Make that part of your, meditation. Just, I trust in God, trust in source, trust in infinite intelligence, just trust. Because that is what it is. We try to do all this stuff. It's like, no, just be, and just trust, and pay attention to the divine inspiration, take action on the divine inspiration, and then the abundance comes, because you've trusted and you've listened and you take action upon the divine inspiration. And that's how the 3D manifestation of the money comes in.
The divine inspiration, indeed. And that's, it's all just part of the spectacular journey, It's all, and we can't rush these things. Things come in when it's time.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no rush in this process at all.
No. Beautiful. And on this note, there can be a pretty lengthy, holy shit, what am I doing moment for people wanting to build a business out of their innate gifts. It brings up all of the shadow work to be processed. What's your biggest advice to help these people gain the courage and confidence to step out?
This is really interesting. And I'll kind of share what we were talking about before we came on live. So a lesson that I've learned as I've watched my clients and seeing what happens, because we all know we get the calling, we get the ping. We're like, I'm supposed to be a spiritual coach or help people or however we think it is. And the business sounds great because we're like, wow, I can create money with what I love. And so we go down that path. And then what happens a lot of times is the path doesn't seem very easy. So I see spiritual entrepreneurs struggle so much because they're also this 3D, 5D kind of balance. And so what has to happen, and again, I've seen this so many times, I've actually had to back into creating programs that serve like this. But like before, I used to have like Spiritual Biz Bootcamp. You can make, 10K a month, which you can, but they weren't ready to. So this goes back to, who do we have to become to do that? And then, so then I created Spiritual Biz Coaching. I'm like, great, you should be able to make like 4 or 5K a month. Let's lower this, take a little pressure off and everything. And like some people like you have done amazing because you were doing the inner work. And if someone hasn't been doing the inner work, it'll lose them, because we have to earn the right to be that person. We have to earn the right to call ourselves a spiritual coach. There's no standard for spiritual coaching out there. People just go, oh, I'm a spiritual coach. And I'm like, are you really living in integrity? Like when you graduated from the Spiritual Biz Coaching certification program, I made you take a spiritual oath of integrity, because we have to be living in integrity with what we're teaching. And so what happens, I think a lot of people want to be spiritual coaches, or maybe they're doing readings and stuff, but they're not living and walking the walk like they're talking about. So there's things are out of alignment. So the best advice I can give is to do the inner work. And so that's like the latest program I've created is called Purpose to Prosperity, because only until you know who is this person in this physical body on this plane, the spiritual person in this physical body on this plane, who is this person that's going to go out and coach? Most people don't know who they are. They don't. They're like, yeah, I'm so-and-so's daughter, or, oh, I'm I was a Wall Street person. I'm an ex-Wall Streeter, or but we don't really know who we are. Like, who's this person? So doing that shadow work and knowing who you are and what your real purpose is, that's the key. Because without that, it doesn't work. And then what happens is then you get frustrated. You start blaming people and you start looking outside of yourselves, and all that does is ground you more to the 3D. Like, it's this really interesting process. Like, you want to create this spiritual business. I want to be a spiritual coach. But then you get frustrated and you start blaming things outside of you, which again anchors you back into the 3D. So we have to do the inner work so that you can earn the right to call yourself a spiritual coach, which is really a spiritual leader, guys. Like, this is the thing. People are like, I'm not a leader. Oh, yes, you are. You're coaching, you're leading. Even if you're doing like tarot readings for people, you're leading them during that time. So you have to earn that right. So that's a big piece. So this inner work, this is the key to everything. This is the key to just being a good human being on this planet, right? We need to know who we are. Who's this person? Have you done the inner work? Are you looking in? Do you understand the little shadows that creep out? What are the things that trigger you? Are you able to overcome those? Like, all of that has to be looked at if you're going to step out and call yourself a spiritual leader. So that inner work is really key. And like I said, that's the program we just created called Purpose to Prosperity, because you've got to do that inner work for prosperity to come. Because prosperity will not happen, which again is being in flow with divine source, mind, body, spirit. That does not happen if you're constantly fighting things in the 3D. So for the real version of prosperity, you have to know who you are and what your purpose is on this planet. And when you can tie that together, then prosperity starts to show up for you. So that's a really big piece that I think we're so eager to make the money and so eager to be the coach that we'll skip that. And when you skip that, it never really works, which is crazy.
Yeah, it gives people a great deal of depth when we know who we are. We're not just what we show the world. And how we perform for those around us until we realize that we're performing. And then we go, well, actually, who am I? How do I want to show up? And there's also the depth that we get through doing the shadow work, through going within. And this is an interesting connection that's come through for me in hearing you speak, that this depth, I think of like darkness almost, which is not bad, and think of shadow, and shadow is not bad. It just is, right? Everything just is. And you think of a beautiful tapestry, and we can think of this in the experiences that we have in this lifetime, as well as the experiences in all of the lifetimes. The positive experiences would be the beautiful bright colors in this painting or this tapestry, and the more challenging experiences or the darker lifetimes would be the shadow, but it's the shadow that brings the color to life.
Yeah.
It's going to the depths that gives everything else meaning and color in your life.
Yep. There's no way around that. And if we don't do it in this lifetime, you're going to come back and have to do it again.
Yeah. And it's really like, once you get, there's so many tools available for people out there, and some are going to resonate with some and compared to others. Like you've got your alchemy. What do you call your
alchemy of emotion?
Alchemy of emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got that. There's tons, there's sound, there's movement. So, and it really comes down to, you just get really good at it. Something triggers you. You could be, out in the street, whatever, your mom says something to you, whatever it is, and you get triggered, and it's like, oh boy, there's that burning. And then you go straight into working with that emotion and allowing that to be and working through your process. And then it moves through.
Yep.
It's really not there's some nasty dark nights of the soul, not going to lie, but it gets easier and it becomes like faster to move through them quite often, in my experience, at least. Yeah,
so much faster. You're like, oh, and sometimes you can see it before it even happens. You're like, oh, there's that thing. Okay, yeah. So that you just, you start to really be on top of it. You don't have a choice, really.
Yeah. Okay. Last question, Kimberly.
Yes.
What are you grateful for, and what do you love about being human?
I think I'm just grateful for like the overall experience. Because if you think of all of our experiences and what we've created here, and that's probably, I guess, what I love about being human is that we get to create. Like, we really are in far more control than we give ourselves credit for. And when you can get there and you can see the creations, you're like, wow, this is so cool. Like, it really is fun if we choose to have fun with it. We can also choose to have, crazy moments and go through depressions and anger, and we can choose whatever we want, which is actually the cool part. We get to choose what we want, but just that and just the whole experience. I mean, we live in Asheville, North Carolina. We live in the mountains, and I walk out and I'm like, this is just so amazing. Matrix or not, I'm like, it's just beautiful. I'm like, give a little thanks to Sophia and all the people involved in creating the beauty on this planet. I'm like, this is really cool. I'm like, thank you so much. However this got here, it's really beautiful, and I love that I've created this home, because this was how we found this house, was just one of those beautiful unfolding moments of manifestation and creation. And it's like, yeah, this is really cool that I get to create this and be here and co-create with other human beings, and just that co-creative process. That's why I love what I do so much too, working with my clients, is that I'm really co-creating with them. They want a business, we're co-creating. I'm watching them expand and grow. And then something like this, like you, right? You've got this beautiful gratitude series, and you're just like, oh, and I'm like, wow, and I get to participate in that. I was part of a little bit of the catalyst of that. I'm like, it's so cool to see that we just get to all create together.
And your rose garden is divine. I just want to shrink myself to the size of a little fairy and just fly around and smell all those beautiful roses. You can pass that along to Daniel for me.
I will. We take great pride in this yard. This year, everyone comes by and they're like, what? Like, we've done the whole English garden in the front. It's so beautiful. It's like, and so we just stand here sometimes. We'll stand on the front porch and just look out and be like, this is unbelievable. It's just like taking it all in, which is so nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just want to say one thing you said before about, we choose all of these experiences, and I've just launched this little group program thing. And it's like, there's contraction around things when we put ourselves out there. Until, it's part of the work that we get to do. It's like, I hope that people like it. And then it's just like, actually, I can have a lot of fun with this. Like, let's see what this can turn into. And that it goes from like sphincter to like a flowing river, and it's just like, let's play. Let's play. Let's see what's up.
And you were divinely inspired to create that program. So it's going to work. There may be a couple of things you have to adjust and get through, but like just follow that inspiration. It'd be great.
Yeah.
Whoever works with you would be so lucky, because I've watched you work with other people, and it's a lovely experience to see. So they'll be very lucky to be in that program.
Thank you, Kimberly.
You're welcome.
So, your gratitude gift, Kimberly, is an ebook that people can download straight away. So it's called "Are You a Spiritual Entrepreneur? The 6 Shifts to a 6-Figure Spiritual Business." That's fun to say.
Say that
and they can find that if they go to nicolahenderson.co/gratitude series, and that is linked in the comments of this video as well. Is there anything that you want to say about that?
I think that's it. It's actually, you can kind of see the top book behind me a little bit, but it's actually that book that I've decided to share with everybody and just give it away, because there's some really great shifts in there. Like people watch that or listen to that, and or whether it's audio or reading the book and what have you, and they're like, wow, they're like, there was this thing you said and that thing you said. And so there's a lot in there. And there's also some just really beautiful stories of people that have really stepped out with their spiritual businesses. So you can see, like, it can happen. Like, you could have that too. Like, wouldn't that be amazing if that was you? Right? Can that happen? Yes, that can happen. So it's that amazingness of knowing that you can, and then so reading through that, getting through it, and just being like, oh, and taking that inspiration from it, and really finding your divine inspiration to do something. Right? We're not on this planet to sit around and think and hem and haw. It's like we're here to act upon divine inspiration. So take the leap of whatever it is, or whatever inspiration you get, take that leap, because Source is creating through us. And so that's what we need to be doing, is constantly creating from divine inspiration, so that we're in that flow and that prosperity happens for all of us.
Mm-hmm. And a little realization on that note, we speak of divine inspiration, which is like ideas that drop in, but our imagination, what we think and what comes into our mind, is source too. Yeah. So just as another way to think about it, it's divine inspiration, but it's also of source.
Yes. It's a great differentiation. Kind of a mind. Right.
Yeah. Like, whoa, that's so cool. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Beautiful.
So in closing, deepest gratitude to you, Kimberly. I really appreciate your presence and everything that you do in the world. It's an honor to be shoulder to shoulder, heart to heart with you now, bringing and ringing in the new earth. I celebrate you, I celebrate humanity, and I celebrate life. Here's to life. And may I offer you a gift of light language now?
Oh, yes. Oh, I love this.
All right. Naisi u anaa. Kiki ayasana I ayakakaya nanaya kakaya saka. Wai shakai namani aya naya kaka. Aya sikiki aya kana masi kakaya namania shaya kakaya namaa. Kuia nania saya ki aya naa. Kashaka, Kimberly.
Thank you. It's beautiful. I love hearing you do that. And feeling it.
Yeah. So thank you again, and thank you to everyone for tuning in live or catching the replay. It's been such a gift to share this experience with you all. Have a blessed morning, afternoon, or night.